pressure of our parents, it's like at the end of it is you have a good job.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
That's their focal point. Yeah.
So you take care of your fucking self.
Yeah,
like,
yeah, I don't want to.
You can, yeah, like just take care of yourself. So then you're more.
Hi, welcome to the Was College Worth It? Redo right off the bat. Hi, welcome to the Was College Worth It podcast, where we have our guests reflect on the value they did and didn't get from their college experience. I'm your host, Amir, and just to get the legal stuff out of the way, I do work at a company at the time of this recording, and the views that I express here are mine and mine alone, and not the views of the company I work for. Today, my guest is Hussein Al-Baiaty. He has a degree in architecture from Portland State University. He's the #1 best-selling author of The Art of Resilience, The Refugee State of Mind, where he recounts his experience of surviving the 1990 Gulf War and living in a refugee camp before coming to America and building his life. He's the founder of Refugees, where he sells graphic tees and merch used to expand awareness while donating much-needed items to local and international refugees. He has a YouTube channel linked in the description below. Hussein, thank you so much for being here today with me.
Yeah, man, absolutely. This is great. Congratulations on your show. I'm very happy to be here and excited to just share experiences and stories.
Awesome. Okay. I wanted to start off by saying I absolutely loved your book. I was so encapsulated by it.
Man.
My parents had to urgently leave their home country of Iran as well,
Yeah.
and they're awfully quiet about the details of their experience.
Of course.
So could you just give me what happened, how it all played out?
Yeah, so I was actually about 5 years old. It was 1990. The Gulf War had just broken out. That whole situation with Kuwait, Iraq, the U.S., and allied forces. Again, I was very young, but up to that point, like, we just had like a normal life, I guess. My dad did his thing. He worked for the local government. He paved streets, basically. He was a manager for a while, but he was also an artist. So at night, this is what he did. He just poured himself into art, poetry, all those kinds of things. So anyway, the unfortunate events led to us having to leave Iraq, and we ended up being refugees in Saudi Arabia. We thought it was going to be like, maybe a couple of weeks, maybe a couple of months, because we thought, they were going to get rid of Saddam.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, that turned into 4 years of living in a desert refugee camp, which was more like a prison. And, at the time, this is early 90s, man. There's hardly any communication, right?
Yeah.
So it was a brutal experience, man. I mean, again, I was young, so I was very well taken care of by my mom, dad, brothers, sisters. I was very much loved, taken care of. So I'm infinitely grateful of how much I was in this bad situation. However, I didn't realize I was in a bad situation. I was just a kid, But but at the same time, I'm being traumatized because I'm seeing pain everywhere, right? Pain like everywhere. I didn't recognize what that was until now, but all the emotions, everything, all that now is tied to my empathy. And I didn't realize how much empathy I had, and how much I care for people and like emotions and my own emotions and the urge to want to help people, want to rescue people. All of those things that I had carry now, and I'm trying to navigate in my emotional states, were actually based in that time because of my urge to want to help people. Because when you see a lot of pain, you're 6 years old. What can you do? Except for, I tried to make my brothers and sisters laugh and be a jokester or just have fun. And so that experience, was very unfortunate, but it was a interesting time too, because I learned a lot from my father. My father and I had a really intimate, like, close relationship because I watched him paint for hours. And that's what eventually led us to come out of the refugee camp, was my father's artwork. It's very detailed in the book about how that all happened. But again, the artist that just never quit, and he kept painting and like attracting people to himself and building relationships. And there's a lot I learned later in life, having reflected back on what was happening at that time. And I realized a lot of who I am was actually being developed right there. So
It's an incredible story. And
thank you, bro.
Like, I can totally see how the empathy builds, especially like, how many siblings did you have in the refugee camps?
So I have 4 older brothers and an older sister and a younger sister. So there's 7 siblings, like 7 kids and a mom, dad. And we're all in like a tent, probably no bigger than 10 by 15, at any given point. It was a lot of cramming.
There's no loading time.
All the experiences in the refugee camp were just brutal. And the way the education and things are very, I would say, almost ancient. For me, for any kid, no one liked school, like, period. Because the potential of you getting slapped around by your teacher was high at any given point. So it was always it was fear driven.
Yeah.
Right. And we know this now, like, fear, yes, it can work, but also it doesn't work. It's I'm not going to memorize, you had to memorize things from the Quran. You have to, all these, and I love the Quran, but I can't get beaten up to not, perform it well. Like, it's just ridiculous.
Yeah.
So the correlation, what happened is, when I came to America and the school system is different, obviously the teachers can't touch you and you're much more relaxed. Like, you're excited to go to school. You are engaged with your teacher. You want to be involved. I just became hyper aware and I just saw so much opportunity. I just felt like, I just wanted to learn and I felt like I could grow. And yeah, like, the things that interest me, are calligraphy, painting, and of course I grew up around it, right, with my father. Those were great, but I knew I had weaknesses like math, science, all those things. But I knew if I had to work hard on those things, then other stuff will come easy. And so that kind of trickled all the way up to college. And when I got into college, my thing was, man, I promised my dad I was going to be an architect. Like, no matter what, I was going to do something with my artistic abilities, but then weave everything else I needed to know to make a living with this art, right? And so my dad, he did urban planning for a while too back in Iraq, and he knew that, like, architects do well, civil engineers do well, like, you're not going to be a billionaire, right? But you're going to do okay. Your life is going to be great. Doctors, engineers, right? Like, that's the philosophy, because they can't base anything off of what they don't know. They base things off of what they've seen worked, and rightfully so.
Yeah.
So of course, immigrant refugee kids are going to have that pressure of wanting to succeed, and then of course make them proud, right? Like, they sacrificed a lot. They did a lot for me to get here. What do I need to do to get there? I'm proud of you moment. I love you for this. Keep going. And there's a lot of ups and downs, of course. And so the trials and tribulations of, like, going through college and then not getting accepted into the architecture program, a few times. And so this constant, like, getting pushed back and then getting back up, getting pushed back and then getting back up, taught me a lot about focus, about discipline, about, nothing was going to be handed to me easy. And I realized, if that's the case, then I'm just not going to stop. You know what I mean? In my life, like, I'm just not going to give in. And so I got into the architecture program. It all worked out, and it was beautiful, man, because it was a beautiful mesh between science and art, right? I loved every moment of going through. Dude, I worked my ass off in those studio classes. Architecture is different because it's like you literally get a key to a studio and you're there. They expect you to be there all day, all night. They tell you, like, don't get a job, don't whatever. Like, you're going to spend the next 3 years here. Wow. And it's very intense. And everything from study of light to study of space to study every drawing, renderings, 3D, CAD, math, physics, bridge building. Like, you have to be so dynamic in thinking that it's very intense, and rightfully so. And so,
as for, like, going through the architecture program in itself, what marketable skills did you actually get out of that degree? So by marketable, I mean skills that, like, to this day or in the past, employers or clients have paid you money, kept paying you money, or paid you more because of that skill. And for example, this could be something specific like the actual architecture skill set, or it can be as, like, the temperament that you mentioned that you built through going through it.
No, that's a great question, man. It's very powerful. So first of all, architecture strips you down. It wears you down. The first year, so we started off with like 60, 70 plus students. By the time we graduated, there was like 18 people in my graduation class.
Wow.
They stripped them down. So they strip you down and build you back up. And what that means is, so you're doing everything. I had to learn Photoshop, Illustrator, CAD. You had to learn programs, because you're trying to not only create and manifest an idea, but you're also trying to articulate it and show it and prove that it can work. And you have to show your entire thinking process. So sketching, every sketch mattered. Every model that you built mattered to the overall composition of what you're doing. So it taught me that not one single thing mattered, but the whole piece does. Like every element of what you're doing is working together to portray an idea.
Yeah.
I love that. Then you have to present. So my presentation, you have to present not to just like your class. Dude, they brought in architects that worked at firms to sit there and grill you.
Wow.
Like, it is intense, right? And, some of those were great and some of them are informative. Some of them were terrible, as far as like how they respond to your work. So it doesn't matter. If you're shy, if you're like a lightweight, like it's going to bother you. Yeah. And that's what they want. They want the emotion to be put aside and present your creative work. And so building confidence. So there's that aspect. And then friendships. So you got friendships that are within the community of architecture. And then you got friends that are outside of that, right? The ones that you carried in from high school, the ones that you carried in whatever. Some are going to stick and some have, and some just completely weathered away, right?
It's the nature of it.
But I would say, a lot of my friendships really cultivated around that time because you're building really strong bonds. And so I think for me, the marketable aspect of things, dude, like I learned screen printing, but I needed to know Photoshop, Illustrator, all those things. And that taught me that, right? I needed to, once I got into screen printing, like just to do t-shirts on the side or whatever, I was learning composition. I was learning ideas, how to embed 2-3 ideas at once and lock them in together and make something new and creative. I was able to now speak in front of people with confidence, with assurance, right? Because I knew how to articulate and put together my idea in a story format, right? Which is the most powerful thing. And so I was learning things that I, at the time I was using like almost daily. But I didn't know how it was all going to come together, and that's okay. But I think at the end of it, the skills I learned there, the people I got to meet there, the constant uncomfortable positions I put myself in, whether it be business or t-shirts or architecture or conversations or just whatever it was, all of those things, that time, I spent almost 6.5 years in college. All that time, what I came out of it, so from 2010 all the way to now, like I've probably made over $2 million, like in everything, in income, right? Because I grew my apparel printing business, which was huge, right? Because I grew that, and we got to start working with Nike and Jordan and Adidas and the Blazers, and it just expanded. But my ability to go in, present to those kinds of people, and all these things came from architecture. Right? That confidence, it came from architecture. For me to tell a story, get people to, like I charm them up, but with who I am. To get people to believe in you, to believe in what you can do for them is an energy all on its own. And I think it takes a culmination of what you learn and put yourself through, good, bad, ugly, great, all of these things that feed into these opportunities, right? And so there's no one single thing. And, and then eventually I changed trajectory, right? Like, so now, I'm writing books. I'm working on a gallery. I'm working on my next book. I'm evolving as an artist. And I think that's what architecture in school did for me. I think it just helped me realize that I could be whatever I want. I could be whoever I want. But in order to do that successfully, you have to learn skills. You have to you have to get uncomfortable.
Yeah.
And I love that. I love how uncomfortable, because it was hard. And I didn't realize how much I loved hard, difficult things until later in life. I was like, wow, building a business is fucking hard.
Yeah.
Why would I do that? But that's what pulled me closer to who I am. You
Yeah.
see what I'm saying? It was pulling more out of me, more of my purpose. And I think I did architecture school for a year, and then I didn't get in, right? And then I went to like graphic design, and we were taking like art classes, and like I was bored out of my mind. Dude, I had been a drawing master, a painting,
and you were
everything.
bored.
I was bored because I wasn't pushed, I wasn't challenged, I wasn't uncomfortable, you know? Yeah, when somebody's like, well, what about this lighting? What about the space? Where's the sun coming up? You have to think about so many things to deliver an answer that is poetic.
Yeah.
And I just couldn't get there with graphic design.
As for the marketable skill piece, do you think you could have gotten that from another path outside of college for you?
I think yes and no. You know what I mean? Like everything else. I think college traditionally, sets you up on this course, right? You go through the motions, you become out an architect, an engineer, whatever. And that's great, man. It's not a bad thing, right? It's what you do with it.
Yeah.
Right? Like we all go through things, but what do you ultimately want? So I think the pressure of our parents, it's like at the end of it is you have a good job. Yeah. You know what I mean?
That's their focal point. Yeah.
So you take care of your fucking self.
Yeah.
Like
I don't want to.
You can, just take care of yourself. So then you're marketable to a wife or you're marketable to a husband. Yeah. Like that's the most marketable thing you could do is have a good job and a place to live. And then as your parents get older, see, like this is the thing about Middle Eastern culture too, right? Is they don't have 401ks.
No.
We don't have these ideologies, right? So like your kids are your 401k. They have to grow up and take care of you. So the pressure for them to be more successful than you is much higher because this is who you're relying on to help you later on in life, which actually makes sense. This is how it's been for centuries, right?
Yeah.
And I respect that. I don't, I'm not the greatest person. I'm not the greatest son or anything like that. But I'm just saying, like, I get it. I get the aspect. I get why the pressure is there. And it can get unhealthy and it can get very toxic.
Yeah.
But when pendulum swings both ways. So like the other side of that is actually it's pressure. Think about if you didn't have that pressure and you didn't go to college and you missed out on those opportunities and conversations and people you met at that barbershop or at that thing or inspired you to do something. See, for me, college was an experience. Dude, I hated classes. I got my. It's a love-hate relationship, right? And I had to spend money, dude. Like, you go out, you come out of it in debt.
Yep.
However, you get one life.
Yep.
And whether it's a good decision or a bad decision to go to college, that's really up to you, but you don't know until you go. As far as marketability, man, it's likability, right? Like with everything and everyone, if you're likable, you'll probably get the job. If you're likable, you'll probably get the following, you'll get the audience, you'll get whatever you want, but authentically likable.
Yeah.
That's the hard part.
People can sniff it out.
Yes. Especially now, right? So authentically likable. So what can lead to that likability? Well, learning a few different types of skills, right? Like doing different things that are uncomfortable, that will kind of expand who you are. Then you can have a breadth of work, a breadth of knowledge and experience. So whoever you talk to, you can develop a conversation. And I think that idea of being likable on top of experiences, on top of skills, you're this trifecta.
No kidding. Likable. I've never thought about being likable as a skill set. I've worked alongside colleagues who were unskilled but likable. I was working with people that I liked, so it made it enjoyable, and I wanted to help them, and I would stay after hours to make sure they understood anything and answer questions. I've dealt with skilled people who were not likable, and I was looking to get on a different team. Like I could draw my own boundaries, but I think about that experience and how much that must happen across organizations, across like groups. Yeah, likable is definitely a marketable skill set, right? As for the credibility piece of college, like the actual just, I went to Portland State University, I have a degree in architecture. Has that helped you in any way? If so, how?
Honestly, I'm going to be 100% honest with you. When people brag about what university they went to, it fucking annoys me. Period. Like, I do not care because it's not it's, you know, what's the old saying, like, man made the money, money never made the man.
Yeah.
Right? You could go to the dopest university. It doesn't mean that you are now God. It doesn't mean that you're now Elon. Nothing. It just means you went to a really expensive university that I can't afford. You know what I'm saying? Like, you had opportunity. You built yourself. You went to a great Ivy League school. Great. That's amazing. What are you doing with you now?
Yeah.
What are you doing with those skills? Are you helping people? Are you just making more money? Are you in stock? What are you doing? Yeah. And I think for me, if you can leverage that, right, and build something awesome or do something great with your life or have a healthy, balanced life, have a good relationship with your spouse, your wife, your kids, you know, the things that really fucking matter, man. People, you know, like if somebody were to tell me, yo, man, I took my kid to the baseball or the basketball game. We had such a blast. You know, my kid, I'd rather listen to that than some guy telling me about going to Caltech and I'm like, oh, that's dope too. But people want something to like associate themselves with. Associate yourself with yourself.
Yeah.
Right? The degree for me, as powerful as it was, it's nice to put on a resume. It's there, right? Like I went to school. I did something for 4 years, 6 years for me, right? I got this certificate. That's really what it is. A piece of paper saying that you came to these classes every day for 6 years.
Yeah.
That's all I'm saying. It just proves that you showed up, right? There's a lot of people that graduate out of college, man, that are, like you said, skilled, unlikable. Likeable, unskilled. Like, at the end of the day, we want to work with people because we are not that far from our ancestral heritage, which is tribal. Yeah. In tribes, you had to be likable in your tribe. Yep. Or else you're out.
And good luck if you're out.
Let's be real. And that's what all these cultures are about. Work cultures, all these things are just redeveloping the tribe in which we abandoned. Yeah. Right? And we're just redeveloping it in a new way. But the whole thing is built around likability. If we don't like our leaders, we're not going to work there anymore. Yeah. Especially now, you know? And so we don't like our colleagues. Bro, people will leave a good job if they don't like people they're working with. Yeah. I know it happens every day. Yeah. So likability trumps everything.
What I'm hearing is that the likableness or like what marketable skills you develop through the pressure of what you're dealing with, that matters more down the line. The credibility might land you the job. Yeah. It might not help you keep the job. I know someone that does have a Harvard MBA and he can't stand some of the people from his graduating class. Like he'll let it serve him, like, because he paid the money to get that. It's a tool.
It's a tool, bro. It's a tool on your belt. Yeah. That's all it is, man. But literally a degree from any university is a tool on your belt. Yeah. Now, what you do with those tools, right, is what matters. Yeah. Right? I'd rather be, like I said earlier, and I'd rather be associated with myself and the things that I've done as opposed to being associated with what university I went to. Exactly. Again, what I did with architecture, people like, do you still use architecture? I'm like, every single day. Yeah. I plan everything in my life. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. I'm a planner. I do strategy. I think about things uniquely, differently, beautifully, poetically, artistically. I will tell you this. Yeah. If I didn't go to college, had I not gone to college, the bright thing to do is I would have done two things. Okay? Sure. One, go to therapy. Seriously. Yeah. Like sign up for a therapy class. Yeah. Two, really get to know different people. So like, for example, I thought about just becoming an artist, like a fine artist. I should have called a fine artist, like a professional, dope fine artist, and go work with him for 6 months. And literally sweep up their... And okay, perfect example, more realistic. Yeah. This is exactly what I did for screen printing.
Really?
I was hand painting t-shirts. A guy told me about screen printing. Looked it up, saw it. I was like, oh, that's dope. He's like, I know a guy who does this in town. I went with him the next day, met the guy. I swept his floors, cleaned his shop every day for 6 months after school for free.
Just that apprenticeship
to learn the
model.
Process.
Just, can I absorb it? Yeah.
Absorb it. I absorbed it. I learned everything I needed to do. And then I went and invested in myself. I took my financial aid money from school and I went and purchased a little press and just started printing out of my room. And then I moved into the basement of that barbershop because of my relationship with the owner. His name is Patrick, amazing dude. And he started giving me work because the guys that were sitting in his chair are, you know, some of them are business owners. Yeah. Some of them were actually at the university. They were professors, so they knew. And again, connections, man. It's who you know, how you know, what, and then it's not just who you know. It's what can you bring to who you know.
Yeah, it's right? A two-way street.
What skills? What? Yeah, because if you can help them out with their problem and do it in a dope way, they're gonna come back.
Yeah.
And so it was all of those moments, man. And so in a way, I did an apprenticeship. Right, and I did school, so best of both worlds, man. But if you don't want to go to school and you want to just, you know, learn something or whatever, like you want to open up a coffee shop, go work at a coffee shop.
Yeah.
You want to open up a gym, go work at a gym, right? Like get that experience, learn it, but go there with the intention. Right now, bro, I'm at Scribe Media.
Yeah.
I sold my entire shop, sold my business, everything, right? I started working with Scribe Media while I'm building my personal brand. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm learning things from Scribe intentionally. But I'm doing it because I'm learning about how to build community. I'm learning about how to build this, that. I'm learning for the next 3, 4, 5, however much years I need to go on and build my personal brand.
Yeah.
So I'm doing exactly what you're talking about. And so you can apply that at any time in your life.
As for the costs of college, you already talked about it. How much do you think college was going to cost you? Like, not how much did it cost you, but how much did you think?
Yeah, I had no idea. I knew it was going to be a lot, but I knew I knew I could get financial aid. Yeah. I knew I could get. Dude, my parents were on welfare when I was in college. We were in a low income housing development when I was in college. So you know, I got approved for some. So okay, I walked out of school with $68,000 in debt.
All right.
And then so there was another probably 20 or 30 that was just like federal hookups, if you will, right?
Yeah.
Like, you know, whatever.
Grants and whatnot.
So 68 grand, let's say 100.
Okay. All in.
Okay. All in 100, man. I mean, if I would do it again, I would do it differently. I would for sure have gotten a scholarship in high school. I didn't. I talk about this in the book. I felt like a dumbass when I finished high school. I felt like an idiot. I was like, man, I could have spent the last 2 years. I could have gotten a full ride because 1, I was a minority. 2, my parents were poor.
Yeah.
3, I was like academically okay. I could have leaned into my artistic abilities and gotten to an art school at least. You know what I'm saying? I could have gotten at least 2 years, maybe 3 years paid for. And I knew that during and after college.
Yeah.
And dude, I was heartbroken. And people don't realize how much money is out there in scholarships.
That just
people
doesn't get paid out because people don't apply.
People don't realize that if you want to go to college for free, you 100% can.
Yeah.
100% can. I don't care what anybody. If you just apply yourself.
Yeah.
Right? Apply the essays, apply for those applications, apply whatever. But doing it in high school, man. So that was the one thing I was mad at. I've always been mad at myself about that. But it was a lesson learned, right?
The earlier the better.
Because I could have gotten. And my wife, man. My wife did it. My wife paid for about 80% of her, 85% of her university. She went to U of A, theater department, all that. Scholarships, man.
Wow.
She's a genius. So, I mean, it doesn't take a genius. She applied herself, right? It's just like, don't get lazy. Apply yourself. You can get school paid for.
It's funny how much of it is just literally send in the form. And
just send in the form and fucking bro.
No one else. It's like sometimes
I wrote stories that made my teachers cry. I could have just put that story in the form and sent it in and got paid.
Copy paste. 10 minutes of your
man.
10 minutes of your
so
life.
Mad at myself for that, but it's all right. At the end of the day, man, I'll be real with you. I still owe about $25. I'm kicking out my $200, $300 payments, like whatever, man.
Cutting it down.
And honestly, man, there was a few times where I could have paid it off, and I just didn't. I invested the money in other places.
The interest rate's low, man.
The case.
But if you were to rate it on a scale of 1 to 10, 1 being probably not the case for you, 10 being hell yeah, absolutely, I'm glad I did it, what would it be? And you can't pick 7.
10 for sure,
10.
bro. 10.
Awesome.
No lie. Yeah, I'm not gonna front on that. 10. At the end of the day, what has it gotten me? Amazing relationships, an endless amount of knowledge and understanding. I could talk to so many different types of people. I made my mom and dad happy and proud and grateful. And my brothers, my siblings, I'm inspiring to my nephews and nieces.
Yeah.
I take that fully, man. I love that. I love being inspiring to other people. And if the cost of all of those things put together is around $100,000, well, what has it gotten me? Beautiful relationship. I built a $1 million business from it. I built myself, my abilities. Really, at the end of the day, that's what matters. I understand health better. I understand humanity better. I understand my economics and socioeconomic. I understand race better. I understand my biases. I understand so many different things. So, was it worth it? For me, it was. For me, totally was. Could I have done things differently in many different ways? Of course, But at the end of the day, man, I love going through that campus every day. It was fun.
Awesome. That's all I have. I really, really appreciate the work that you're doing in the world, man.
Thank you.
What do you got going on right now, and how do the viewers find you?
Yeah, man. Let's see. So, like you said, I work with Scribe and my people for sure, and we're hoping to grow a new podcast show with Scribe. But that's still in the works. And just more community development with the network. Outside of Scribe, I do my own personal branding, which is which author speaking and artistry. And what I mean by artistry is just like creating things that bring people together to celebrate their heritage, their refugee stories, their immigrant stories. Right now it's in the form of refugees, the Run for Refugee. We're coming up on our 3rd one next year. It's a thing where people can sign up and they do a run, walk, or whatever in their park, environment, in their community, in their city or whatever. So it's really fun. So we toned down refugees to that one event, which is great because, I didn't want to make more products and put stuff out in the world. So I just figured like I was helping to solve one problem, but kind of messing with another problem. And so I wanted to tone it down, make one event a year that we just celebrate. On top of that, I'm working on my next book, and I'm working on, actually I just started a few canvases. I think I'm going to be doing an exhibit again to help with an art exhibit painting.
Awesome.
To help with the awareness aspect of refugee stuff, but it's going to be called the Garden of Wisdom. So it's like this idea of all these things and people and the sayings that we know and love, but developed in a beautiful way where people can go catch those kinds of things in a garden and then help give back to refugees in that local environment. And yeah, man, just keep doing what I love and lean into the gifts that I feel like my father embedded. And my mother.
Beautiful. I'll provide the links down below. I love the name Garden of Wisdom. That's so visual. That's awesome.
Man. Thank you. I've been working on that for a while. So the next book is going to be called The Garden Warrior. The 3rd book is The Garden of Wisdom, and then I hope to turn that into like a physical space one day.
Well, you're leaving a legacy behind. I'm excited to see what you do.
Thank you so much, brother.
And
thank you so much.
Excited to follow you, man. Same.
Yeah, man. Yeah. So LinkedIn. I'm not really on Instagram stuff, but YouTube for sure. Just Hussein Al-Baiaty, all that good stuff. I will say, man, I'm extremely proud of you for taking this step forward with creating your own channel. I think it's very powerful to help young minds, just like exactly what you're doing. Decide for yourself, of course, but here are some experiences from people. I love what you're doing so much. I literally can't wait for this show to keep growing. So subscribe out there, all you people, to this amazing channel. I know you're going to give a ton of value to people, man. It's important what you're doing. So I just appreciate that. I can't wait for your book. And I'm excited for everything you're doing, man. I'm super proud of you for just putting this together. So, and thank you for having me on your show.
Well, thank you for the kind words and pushing me in this direction, because I had it in my head for a while, and when we talked, you got me to pull the trigger.
Welcome to the Friends Group. This is what we do. We push each other, man.
Really appreciate it.
Yeah, brother.
Thank you so much for your time. Was really looking forward to this, and I'm glad we got the chance to talk finally. And hope you and everyone watching have a fantastic day.